how our work is deforming us. There's a dehumanization that's gone on, and some would probably say, I mean, you could go back to the Industrial Revolution, and in our economy now, it seems like we are treated more like machines, and we're trying to get in touch more with our humanity. This is why many theologians have noted that the greatest probably question of this millennium is, what does it mean to be human in the midst of this world, and what does it mean to work as a human when we are trying to survive, and it isn't necessarily about fulfillment. My question is, how is our work, though, in our modern culture actually deforming us?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I bet every listener to this podcast, this video, could give their own story. So it could be, I'm looking at a screen all day and my body is literally being deformed, right? It could be, I have to do what this boss says and I don't want to, but this is what I need to do to support my wife and my kids. And I feel devalued in this context, but this is the option that I have before me and I need to do this. And so it can be a spiritual devaluing as well, right? I also think there can be, particularly, at least in some of the circles I'm in, sort of a competitive, sort of a softly competitive nature of who's more successful or who's had the best startup or whatever it might be. And I think that can be really deforming and takes us away from our identity in Christ, right? So there's lots of different ways to think about work. And work, I actually believe God can use work to form us in his image, which is the main topic of the book. But we have to think too about, how is my work actually shaping me? So I'll give you just a little story. So I realized one day, this was in January after we got year-end financials, that we didn't hit our goals and that I had made several mistakes in the previous months that I knew were going to have a really negative impact on my team. And I just felt anxious. I didn't know what to do. So I said to my wife, okay, I'm going to go to Starbucks. I'm going to go work this out and figure out how to solve this problem. And after I worked at Starbucks for a couple of hours, I got more anxious. It got worse. And I felt like, oh no, what is going to happen in the next several months? So I have to fire people. Like, what am I going to do? Anyway, so I come home that night. We're going to have Saturday night pizza with the kids, and the kids are asking, which movie are we going to watch tonight? And they start getting into an argument about which movie we're going to watch. And that sort of anxiety from my work just led to an explosion of saying, no, we're not going to watch any movies. And I just yelled at all of my kids. And I sort of had this realization of, oh no, I've really damaged like my kids. I just had a very negative impact on them right now. And what I literally did was I sent them downstairs a movie. I took my pizza on an unmade bed into my room, shut the door, and was by myself for like 2 hours. It was definitely like my eighth grade moment there. But I realized, like, the context of my work and what was happening in heart, mind, and body, and then what was happening in my family, those are very interconnected, right? And so the concept of working from the inside out is, a lot of my own work in this space was first thinking, what is the gospel? Then what is the gospel in society? But the third question, which we may decide to dive into, was, who am I becoming in this context of trying to be a missionary in Western culture? Who am I really? And what does it mean for me to live in the wholeness of the life of God in this context? So that work can be deforming us, as just one example.